"Mom, Dad's coming to my birthday today, right?" My breath caught when Ron asked that question. His chocolate-covered fingers gripped my hand, and in his eyes lived a hope that shattered me every single time. How could I tell him that Vance didn't even remember his 5th birthday? That this morning when I'd reminded him, he'd only muttered, without looking up, but the moment Donald's text arrived, he'd smiled. That smile I'd never been given. "Of course, sweetheart. He'll be here," I lied. Because lying had become the biggest part of my existence. But the truth, Vance had only been coming home to sleep for the past 3 months, and even that was dependent on whether Donald gave him the time. The rest of his days were spent at Donald's apartment, with the excuse that projects are critical. Projects. Always projects, as if Ron and I were abandoned project files gathering dust on a forgotten shelf. My phone buzzed with a notification. Vance's message. "Running late, you two go ahead with the cake." Simple, cold, as if guilt didn't exist in his vocabulary. I tossed the phone aside and pulled Ron into my arms. His soft skin carried the faint scent of peppermint and vanilla, that typical Omega child scent that usually calmed me. But not today. Today, rage burned inside me. By evening, the birthday party had only a handful of people, 2 of my friends and their children. Ron seemed happy, playing around, but every few minutes his eyes drifted toward the door, hoping Vance would walk through. When it was time to cut the cake, Ron looked at me before touching the candles. "Mom, where's Dad?" Something lodged in my throat. "He's at a very important meeting, baby. Make your wish." He blew out the candles, but I knew what he wished for. The same thing he wished for every year. "I want Dad to spend time with me." And like every year, that wish remained unfulfilled. After everyone left, I got Ron ready for bed. He played with the new robot toy my friends had given him. There was no gift from Vance. He hadn't remembered. "Mom, does Dad not love me?" Ron suddenly asked. My heart shattered, exactly like a glass jar falling and breaking. Every piece separate, every piece sharp. "No, honey, he loves you so much. He's just busy." But Ron was smart. Despite being only 5, he understood rejection. He felt the absence. When he finally fell asleep, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried for the first time. Hard, broken sobs. Because today Ron had asked a question I couldn't answer. What had happened to Vance? Even in our first year of marriage, he'd been distant. Yes. But at least he came home. We had dinners together, but ever since Donald returned to the city a year ago, Vance had completely changed. Ron and I had become ghosts haunting this massive mansion. And the worst part, society believed Vance was the perfect husband. At charity events, he'd hold my hand, kiss my forehead in front of cameras, and the media would write power couple goals. But at home, he wouldn't even enter my room. Separate bedrooms, separate lives. The only thing we shared was the surname, Harper. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Vance. "Can't make it home tonight. Emergency." Right. Emergency. The Donald kind of emergency. I stared at the screen for a long moment, as if another message might appear. Some explanation. An apology. But nothing came. The screen went dark, and so did something inside me. The mansion felt emptier than usual that night. I walked through the hallways where Ron's laughter used to echo, back when he still believed his father cared. Now those halls held only silence and the ghost of what our family could have been. I stopped at Ron's bedroom door, watching him sleep with his stuffed bear clutched tight. His small chest rose and fell with peaceful breaths, unaware that his father had missed yet another milestone. Unaware that in a few years he'd stop expecting anything at all. My phone screen lit up one more time. Not Vance. A notification from the parent group chat at Ron's school, discussing the upcoming family day event next month. My stomach twisted. Another event where Ron would be the youngest child with just one parent present. I typed a reply confirming attendance, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, I just closed the app, walking back to my own bedroom, the one Vance hadn't stepped into for months. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, dark circles under my eyes, lips pressed into a thin line. When had I started looking so tired? So defeated? I remembered our wedding day, how naive I'd been, thinking Vance would eventually open his heart to me. That time would heal whatever wound, Donald had left. But time doesn't heal anything when one person refuses to let go of the past. The bedroom was cold despite the heating. I changed into pajamas and climbed into bed, staring at the empty space beside me. That space hadn't been filled in so long. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to share a bed with my bonded alpha. My omega instincts stirred uncomfortably, a reminder that heat cycle was approaching. The thought filled me with dread. Last time, Vance had been too busy to be present. I'd suffered through it alone, with only suppressants and Dr. Wells's occasional check-ins. Would this time be any different? I already knew the answer. Pulling the blanket tighter around myself, I tried to ignore the ache in my chest, the biological need for my alpha's presence, the emotional devastation of being unwanted by the one person who should have chosen me above all others. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending, of smiling for Ron, of making excuses for Vance, of slowly dying inside while maintaining the perfect image of the Harper family. My phone buzzed one last time. I reached for it with a spark of hope. Maybe Vance had changed his mind. Maybe he was coming home after all. But it was just an automated reminder about Ron's upcoming dental appointment. I set the phone face down on the nightstand and closed my eyes, knowing sleep wouldn't come easily. It never did anymore. In the darkness, I made a silent promise to myself. A promise I wasn't sure I had the strength to keep. Something had to change. This half-life, this existence as a background character in my own marriage, couldn't continue. But change required courage. And courage required hope, and I wasn't sure I had either anymore. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, waking me from a restless sleep. Vance's side of the bed was perfectly made, meaning he hadn't been there at all last night. Probably slept in his study again, or somewhere else I didn't want to think about. I forced myself out of bed and checked on Ron before heading downstairs. He was still sleeping, his stuffed bear tucked under one arm, so innocent, so unaware of how much his father neglected him. In the kitchen, I started making breakfast. Pancakes, Ron's favorite. Maybe this small joy would brighten his day. I was mixing batter when Ron appeared, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Good morning, my love," I smiled. A smile reserved only for him. "Morning, Mom." He yawned and climbed onto a chair at the dining table. "Where's Dad?" That question. Every single morning the same question. And every morning my heart broke a little more. "He left early for the office," I said smoothly. Lying to protect Ron from reality had become second nature. I wanted to shield him from the truth as long as possible. Ron said nothing, just stared at his plate when I served the pancakes. His silence spoke louder than words. He understood everything but didn't want to accept it. After breakfast, as I was getting Ron ready for school, my phone rang. The school's number. Principal's office. "Mr. Frankie, are you and Mr. Vance available today? We need to discuss something important regarding Ron." My heart sank. Is there a problem? "Please come in. This would be better discussed face to face." I sent Ron off to school with the driver, then called Vance. 3 times. Every call went to voicemail. Finally I texted, "Urgent call from Ron's school. Principal's office at 11. Please come." The message showed 2 blue check marks. He'd read it, but no reply came. At 11, I arrived at school. My heart pounded as I waited outside the principal's cabin. Vance, predictably, didn't show. I was alone. As always, Principal Ms. Caroline, who was also Ron's class teacher, invited me inside. Several drawings and papers lay on her desk. "Mr. Frankie, first, thank you for coming. I know Mr. Vance must be busy." Her voice carried a subtle edge that was hard to ignore. "He had an emergency meeting," I covered, though the excuse convinced no one anymore. Ms. Caroline slid a drawing toward me. "Ron created this family portrait in art class yesterday. Take a look." I picked up the paper and my breath stopped. Only 2 figures were drawn. A small boy and an adult, both smiling. Written in crayon at the top, "My family, me and Mom." Vance wasn't there. In his own son's family portrait, the alpha father didn't exist. When I asked Ron where his dad was, Miss Caroline continued, "He said Dad's always busy. He's not part of our family. Mr. Frankie, this is a 5-year-old child's perspective of his father." The paper slipped from my fingers. I'd been trying so hard to protect Ron from Vance's absence, but he'd already figured it out. He felt unwanted, rejected, all because of Vance. Is there more?" I barely whispered. Yes. Ron's behavior is concerning too. He doesn't interact properly with classmates. He becomes aggressive over small things and sometimes completely withdraws. These are signs of emotional distress. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. My son was suffering, and I'd been powerless to stop it. I'll handle this, I said, though I had no idea how. Back home, I taped that drawing to the refrigerator. A silent rebellion. When Vance came home, if he came home, he'd see what he'd done to his son. The afternoon dragged into evening. No Vance. I casually asked the staff, "Any update from Mr. Vance?" "Yes, sir. He messaged that he's leaving for a 3-day business trip with Mr. Donnell." "Shanghai, Donnell. Always Donnell." "He didn't inform me," I said, keeping my expression neutral. The staff member looked uncomfortable. Even he knew this situation wasn't normal. "Perhaps he planned to tell you later." "Right. Later." When he needed something from me, that night after putting Ron to bed, I went to the terrace. Cool wind brushed against my face, and distant city lights twinkled below. Such beautiful scenery, but inside me was only darkness. My phone rang. For one hopeful second, I thought it might be Vance. But the caller ID showed Dr. Wells, my regular physician. "Hello, Frankie. I'm calling to remind you that your heat cycle starts next week. Have you made preparations? Does Vance know?" Heat cycle. The phase when I needed my bonded alpha most. Physically, emotionally, biologically, yes. Everything's arranged. I lied again. Good. If there are any complications, call immediately. Managing heat cycles alone is extremely risky for bonded omegas. Especially, I ended the call and gripped the terrace railing. Vance didn't care about my heat cycles. He hadn't been present last time either. And this time, he'd be in Shanghai with Donnell. My omega instincts were already growing restless. My body was automatically preparing for heat, searching for my alpha's scent. But the alpha I was biologically bonded to was absent in every way that mattered. I made a promise to myself that night. This was the last time. The last time I'd torture myself this way. The last time I'd wait for someone who didn't value me. But right now, in this moment, I was simply helpless. Trapped in a relationship that only existed on paper, not in reality. The night grew colder. I stayed on that terrace longer than I should have, staring at nothing, feeling everything. Somewhere in this city, Vance was probably with Donnell, laughing, making plans, living his life. And here I was, slowly disappearing from my own. The notification lit up my phone. For a foolish moment, hope flared again. But it was just a reminder about a grocery delivery scheduled for tomorrow. I finally went back inside, walking through the silent mansion that had become my prison. Past the formal living room where we'd taken our wedding photos. Past the dining room where we'd hosted exactly 2 dinners before Vance stopped coming home. Past Ron's playroom filled with toys his father had never played with him. In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone again. There was a number I'd saved months ago but never called. A divorce lawyer a friend had recommended. My finger hovered over the contact. This was real. This would change everything. But wasn't everything already changed? Wasn't I already alone? I stared at that number for a long time, my heart racing, my mind spinning with possibilities and fears. Finally, I put the phone down. Not yet. Not tonight. But soon, the decision was already forming, solidifying, becoming inevitable. I just needed one more push. One more sign that Vance truly didn't care. And something told me that sign was coming very, very soon. The next 3 days passed like a nightmare. Vance didn't call, didn't text, just one formal message. Shanghai meetings extended. Back Friday. Friday meant the first day of my heat cycle. Perfect timing. I picked up strong heat suppressants from Dr. Wells and sent Ron to stay with my parents. I told them I was feeling unwell and couldn't manage Ron for a few days. Mom obviously understood. Omega mothers always do. "Frankie, honey, have you told Vance?" Mom asked over the phone, concern threading through her voice. "Yes, Mom. Everything's under control." I lied once more. Lie after lie. My life had become a web of deception. Thursday night, symptoms began. Rising body temperature, increasing restlessness, and that desperate biological need for my alpha's scent, touch, presence. But my alpha's phone just rang and rang. Voicemail. Always voicemail. I locked myself in the bedroom, closed the curtains, and turned the air conditioning to maximum. I took the suppressants, drank water, and lay down, trying unsuccessfully to control what my body demanded. Friday morning, when I dragged myself to the bathroom, my reflection scared me. Flushed cheeks, dilated eyes, dry and cracked lips. The first phase of heat was in full swing. And this was only the beginning. The cramps started, painful, unbearable cramps that forced omegas toward their alphas. But my alpha was in some hotel with Donal, having the time of his life while I suffered. I sent Vance one last desperate message. Vance, please. My heat started. I need you. Please come home. Delivered. Rid. No reply. By afternoon my condition deteriorated so badly that the maid noticed. Without asking, she called Dr. Wells, who thankfully was available. When Dr. Wells saw me, her professional composure cracked. Frankie, what have you done to yourself? Where's Vance? Business trip with Donal. I could barely form words. What? Dr. Wells was genuinely shocked. Your bonded alpha is on a trip with someone else during your heat cycle. This is, please. I interrupted. Just help me. Lecture later. Dr. Wells immediately sprang into action. Strong medications, IV drip for dehydration, cold compress for the fever. She stayed by my side the entire time, like a guardian angel. Frankie, you know how dangerous it is for bonded omegas to handle heat without their alpha? Your body could literally go into rejection. Your biological system could fail. I knew, but what choice did I have? By night, my fever spiked to 103 degrees. Hallucinations began. I saw Vance. He was beside me, holding me, saying, I'm sorry. But when I opened my eyes, only Dr. Wells was there, worried and exhausted. Frankie, I've called Vance multiple times. Emergency calls. He's not picking up. Anger edged her voice. In that moment, through the fever and pain, clarity hit me. Vance had made his choice between me and Donal. And clearly I was the loser. Saturday brought the peak of my heat. The second day was always the most brutal. The cramps intensified until I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I buried my face in the pillow and tried to stay quiet. Because if I screamed, the staff would know how weak I'd become. Dr. Wells gave me sedatives. Rest now. I'm here. When I woke, it was Sunday morning. The heat was slowly receding. The worst part was over. But I felt physically and emotionally devastated. Dr. Wells cupped my face and looked into my eyes. Frankie, listen, I'm not speaking as your doctor now, but as your friend. This relationship is toxic. Your alpha abandoned you in your most vulnerable state. This isn't just neglect. This is abuse. Emotional abuse. I couldn't respond. What could I say? She was speaking the truth. Promise me, she continued, that you'll seriously think about this. About yours and Ron's future. I nodded slowly. Yes. I would think about it. Very seriously. Dr. Wells left in the afternoon after ensuring I was stable, and I was left alone in that huge empty mansion with my broken body and shattered heart. Evening came. The front door opened. Vance had finally arrived. Fresh, smiling, obviously relaxed, like he'd just returned from vacation, not a business trip. He spotted me collapsed on the couch. Oh, you're here. Everything okay? You look a bit tired. Tired. I looked tired. I stared at this person who was my bonded alpha, who should have been my partner, who should have been with me when I needed him most. I had my heat, I said in a monotone, showing no emotion. Vance's smile faded. For 1 second, just 1 second, guilt crossed his face. Oh, damn. I forgot. Frankie, I'm really sorry. Sorry. Just sorry. Like he'd forgotten my lunch at home. But you managed, right? He asked casually while removing his coat. Dr. Wells must have helped. Yes. Dr. Wells helped. The stranger took better care of me than my bonded alpha. Yes, I managed, I said flatly. Vance either didn't catch my tone or chose to ignore it. He got busy on his phone and then a notification came. The name flashed on screen. Donnie. With a heart emoji. A pet name. Vance smiled while reading the message and replied, then headed straight upstairs. I'll freshen up. Pretty exhausted. Exhausted. He was exhausted. I gripped the sofa's armrest and forced myself to stand. My body was still weak, legs shaky, I made my way to the bathroom and looked at my reflection in the mirror. Deep purple circles under my eyes, cracked lips, prominent cheekbones, because I hadn't eaten properly in 3 days. Visible weight loss. I looked like a zombie. A broken, exhausted zombie. And Vance had merely noticed I looked a bit tired. That night, I searched my phone for a number I'd saved long ago but never used. A divorce lawyer. My hand hovered over the phone. This was a huge step. A step with no return. But then I remembered Ron's drawing. Me and Mom. Just the two of us. And I realized we already were just the two of us. What difference would legally removing Vance make when he was already emotionally absent? I dialed the lawyer's number. A woman answered on the third ring. Chan and Associates, Patricia speaking. Hello. My name is Frankie Harper. I need to file for divorce. Saying those words out loud made them real. Terrifyingly, liberatingly real. Of course, Mr. Harper. Can you come to our office tomorrow morning? We'll discuss everything in detail. Yes. I'll be there. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness of my room. Phone clutched in my hand. This was really happening. I was really doing this. Fear tried to creep in. Fear of the unknown, of being alone, of what people would say. But then I thought of Ron's sad eyes. His drawing with only 2 people. His anxiety that required therapy. And I thought of myself. Of the person I used to be before this marriage slowly destroyed me. Before I learned to accept crumbs when I deserved the whole feast. No, fear wouldn't stop me this time. This time I was choosing myself. Choosing Ron. Choosing a life where we weren't invisible. Vance had made his choice a long time ago. Now it was my turn. Monday morning found me sitting in Miss Patricia Chen's office. A sharp, no-nonsense family lawyer with an impressive track record. I told her everything. Every painful detail. Vance's neglect. The situation with Donal, Ron's emotional trauma, and the heat cycle incident that nearly broke me. Miss Chen took notes, occasionally shaking her head in disbelief. Mr. Frankie, I've handled numerous cases over the years, but this level of neglect between bonded mates is genuinely rare. So, can I actually? My voice carried uncertainty I couldn't hide. Absolutely. You have solid grounds for divorce. Regarding custody, Ron's best interests clearly lie with you. Vance is an absentee father and you have documentation, school reports, medical testimony. This will hold significant weight in court. Relief flooded through me. Finally, someone was taking my situation seriously. However, Miss Chen continued, her expression growing stern. You need to prepare yourself mentally. Vance is powerful. Harper Industries CEO. He has resources, connections, influence. This battle won't be simple. I'm ready, I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. Drafting the papers took 1 week. Throughout that entire week, I felt a strange calm settling over me, as if a massive weight was slowly lifting from my shoulders. Vance suspected nothing. He remained absorbed in his usual routine. Late nights, meetings with Donal, barely home on weekends. He never noticed me separating important documents, collecting Ron's school records, or opening separate banks. One afternoon, Vance came home unexpectedly early, probably to grab some files. He found me in the living room sorting through papers. What are you doing? He asked casually. Just organizing some personal documents. I replied smoothly. Vance showed minimal interest. He simply nodded and disappeared into his study, so oblivious to everything happening right under his nose. That same week, another call came from Ron's school. The principal informed me that Ron's behavior was deteriorating. He was having sudden meltdowns in class and getting into fights with other children. Mr. Frankie, I strongly recommend taking Ron to a child psychologist. This behavior isn't normal. Something is deeply troubling him. I immediately scheduled an appointment with Dr. Nina Hayes, a renowned child psychologist. During the first session, Dr. Nina worked exclusively with Ron, talking, having him draw pictures, engaging in play therapy. The second session, she called me in. Mr. Frankie, Ron is experiencing anxiety, severe separation anxiety, and he's emotionally detaching from his father figure as a defense mechanism. The words physically hurt to hear. He told me he feels invisible around his father. He desperately wants attention, but when he doesn't receive it, he blames himself. He thinks maybe he's not good enough. Tears welled in my eyes. My 5-year-old son was blaming himself for his alpha father's toxicity. What should I do? I asked Dr. Nina. Honestly, if the environment doesn't change, if Ron doesn't receive a stable, healthy atmosphere, this trauma will stay with him forever. It will impact his personality development. I recommend removing whatever toxicity exists in Ron's life, even if that toxicity is apparent. Her words strengthened my resolve. I was making the right decision. Friday arrived and the divorce papers were ready. Miss Chen called me to her office and showed me the final draft. Once you sign these, I'll officially file them and send notice to Vance. After that, there's no turning back. I picked up the pen. For 1 second, hesitation crept in. Years of marriage, shared memories no matter how painful, a son together. But then I remembered Ron. His sad eyes, his drawing, his anxiety. I signed. Done, Miss Chen said with a professional smile. I'll begin the process now. Vance should receive notice within 2 to 3 days. I thanked her and left the office. Outside, the sunlight was intense, but strangely refreshing, as if a new chapter was beginning. On my way home, I decided to temporarily move Ron to my parents' house. Things were about to get messy and I didn't want Ron caught in the middle. Sunday, I packed Ron's belongings. He asked curiously, "Mom, how long will we stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house?" "For a while, sweetheart. Mom has some work to handle. But you'll enjoy it, won't you? Playing in the garden, making cookies with Grandma." Ron's excitement was immediate. Simple joys, gardens, cookies, attention. That's all he needed. As we left Vance's mansion, I looked back one final time. That enormous house where my hopes had died. Where I'd been dying emotionally every single day. Where my son felt unwanted. "Bye-bye, house," Ron waved innocently. "Goodbye," I whispered. But my goodbye was permanent. My parents welcomed us without asking too many questions. Mom obviously sensed something serious was happening, but she gave me space. Monday morning, while Ron played in the garden with his grandfather, I told Mom everything. "Mom, I filed divorce papers." Mom took my hand. No shock registered on her face. Only understanding. "I knew, sweetheart. A mother always knows. You've made a strong decision. I'm proud of you." This was the validation I needed. My parents' support. Vance will receive the notice any day now. And then everything will become chaotic. "We're here for you and Ron is safe here." Tuesday afternoon, exactly as predicted, my phone exploded. 15 missed calls from Vance. 20 messages. All in capital letters. "Frankie, where are you? Why did I receive divorce papers? Call me immediately. What kind of joke is this?" A joke. He thought this was a joke. I didn't answer any calls. I sent one text. "This isn't a joke, Vance. My lawyer will contact you." Then I silenced my phone. But Vance didn't give up. He came straight to my parents' house Tuesday evening, exactly 6 o'clock. The doorbell rang. Dad checked the intercom and looked at me. "It's Vance." My heartbeat accelerated, but I kept my composure. "Let him in." Dad hesitantly opened the door. Vance entered, disheveled, hair messy, tie loosened. He looked frantic, desperate. I'd never seen him in such a state before. His eyes searched frantically until he spotted me in the living room with Ron. He came straight toward me. "Frankie, what is this?" He waved the papers clutched in his hand. "Divorce? Are you serious?" "Yes, Vance. Divorce." I spoke calmly. "But why? So suddenly?" Suddenly, I gave a bitter laugh. "Suddenly? Vance, this decision isn't sudden. It's the result of 3 years of neglect, loneliness and pain. I never deliberately hurt you." His voice grew loud. Ron immediately hid behind me, frightened. Seeing this intensified my anger. "Don't raise your voice. You're scaring Ron." My tone was stern. Vance looked at Ron, really looked at him for the first time. Ron couldn't meet his eyes. His own father. "Ron, sweetheart, go upstairs with Grandma," I said softly. Mom took Ron and settled him in an upstairs room. When only Vance and I remained in the living room, Dad stood respectfully at a distance, just in case I faced Vance directly. "Spick, what do you want to say?" "Frankie, please. This is all a misunderstanding." "Yes, I've been busy recently." "But, recently?" I interrupted. "Vance, you missed Ron's birthday. You ignored my heat cycle when you were biologically needed most. You didn't even notice we'd been gone for 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Vance, a normal person would realize within 1 day that their family was missing." Vance's face went pale. I was genuinely swamped. Projects, meetings. Donald, I said simply. Vance froze completely. Yes. I know everything. Your obsession with Donald. Your priorities. I'm not stupid, Vance. Frankie, Donald and I, it's purely professional. Is a heart emoji professional too? I asked sarcastically. Late night calls? Weekend trips? All professional? Vance's mouth closed. He was caught. Look, Vance. I don't need to prove whether you and Donald had a physical affair. It's enough that you cheated emotionally. You gave everything to Donald: attention, time, emotions. And we only shared your surname. Nothing else. Frankie, please. Vance's voice cracked. And look at Ron. Your son. He created a family portrait at school. You weren't in it, Vance. Your son doesn't consider you part of his family. He's in therapy for anxiety because he feels he's not good enough for you. Tears filled Vance's eyes. So why are you here now? Because your social image is threatened? Because the media will discover the Harper couple is divorcing? Or because you genuinely care? I do care, Vance whispered. No. You don't. If you cared, you wouldn't have been in Shanghai with Donald during my heat cycle. If you cared, Ron's drawing would have devastated you. But no. You only cared when the legal notice arrived. I gestured toward the door. Please leave now. My lawyer will be in touch. Frankie. I want to talk, please, one chance. No. My voice was firm. No more chances, Vance. I'm done. Completely done. Now we just need to legally finalize everything. That's it. Vance stood there, broken, trembling. Then he made one last attempt. Let me at least see Ron. He's my son. He would be your son if you'd actually been his father. Did you ever fulfill that role? Did you ever play with him? Read him stories? Attend his school events? No. So whatever legal custody decides is what will happen. Looking at Vance's face, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered those 3 days when I was alone during heat, suffering in pain, while he was laughing and enjoying himself with Donald. Leave, Vance. Please. And Vance left. Slowly, defeated. I closed the door and went to Dad, who looked concerned. Son, are you all right? Yes, Dad, I said, and surprisingly I was telling the truth. For the first time in a long while, I'm actually all right. The next 2 weeks launched the legal battle. Vance's lawyers were aggressive, clearly instructed to fight for custody and complicate the divorce proceedings. But Miss Chen was equally fierce. Don't worry, Frankie. We have solid evidence. School reports, medical testimony, and most importantly, Ron's own mental health records that clearly demonstrate how the toxic environment affected him. Court hearings began. At the first hearing, I saw Vance suited up, flanked by his high-profile lawyers. He looked powerful, intimidating. But I reminded myself this image was purely external. Inside, he was still the person who could neglect his own family. The judge heard opening statements from both sides. Vance's lawyer predictably painted him as a busy CEO providing his family with the best life possible, calling this divorce a sudden and irrational decision. Miss Chen countered that financial stability wasn't sufficient. Your Honor, children need emotional presence, not just financial support. Mr. Vance Harper has been consistently absent from his son's life, causing severe emotional trauma. The judge requested evidence presentation at the next hearing. Outside the courthouse, Vance stopped me. Frankie, please, can we talk privately? I reluctantly agreed. We found a quiet corner of the courthouse. I know I made mistakes, Vance began. His voice sounded genuine. About Donald, you're right. I thought about her constantly. Our past, what might have been. But Frankie, never physically cheated. Emotional betrayal hurts worse than physical. Vance, you gave her your heart, your time, your emotions, everything. Nothing was left for Ron and me. I can change. Please give me one chance. I looked into his eyes. For the first time in ages, genuine regret showed. But this regret only appeared when facing consequences. When his social image was at risk. When custody was threatened. Vance, is this regret real? Or are you just afraid of losing everything? He said nothing, because he didn't know the answer himself. Exactly, I said. You're confused? And I can't stake mine and Ron's future on someone who's confused. I walked away, leaving Vance alone. On my way home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered hesitantly. Hello? Is this Frankie? A pleasant male voice asked. Yes. Who's calling? This is Randall. Randall Reed. We met at the Harper Industries Gala. I apologize if this call seems awkward, but I heard about your situation. I know this might seem strange, but I wanted to check if you're okay. Randall. The investor who'd spoken politely to me when Vance had ignored me. I'm managing. Thank you for asking. Listen, if you ever want to meet for coffee and just talk casually, or if you need to speak with a neutral person, I'm available. No pressure, no expectations. Just as a friend. This was unexpected and surprisingly comforting. Thank you, Randall. I'll definitely consider it. After ending the call, I felt strange. A stranger cared more about me than my own husband did. The following week, both Dr. Nina and the school principal testified in court. Every word favored Ron. Clear evidence that he needed a stable environment which he'd never received. Vance's lawyers attempted counter-arguments, but facts remained facts. Ron's behavior, his anxiety, his drawings, everything served as evidence. One day leaving court, media surrounded both Vance and me. Cameras, microphones, reporters. Mr. Frankie, what caused these domestic issues? Mr. Vance, are the affair rumors true? Vance's face tightened. This was what terrified him most, damage to his public image. I simply told reporters, this is a private matter. The court will decide. Then I left. But that night, the Harper couple's divorce headlined every news outlet. Social media exploded with theories, gossip, judgments. Some people sympathized with me, others defended Vance. Toxicity everywhere. I turned off my phone. I refused to participate in this circus. That same week, Vance made a desperate attempt. He came to my parents' house, this time requesting to see Ron. I need to speak with Ron. Please, Frankie. Ron, who was upstairs, heard the voice. He came to the stairs and saw Vance. For 1 second, their eyes met. Ron, sweetheart, will you talk to Dad? Vance asked softly. Ron looked at me. Scared. Confused. Mom, I called Ron over. Sweetheart, if you want to talk to Dad, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Ron thought briefly, then slowly approached Vance. They sat on the couch together, maintaining some distance. How have you been, Ron? Vance asked, awkwardly. I'm fine. Ron's voice was small. How's school? Good. The conversation felt forced, unnatural, like two strangers attempting communication. And technically they were strangers. Biology had made them father and son, but no bond had ever formed. After a short while, Ron looked at me, a silent plea. I understood. Vance, I think that's enough for today. Vance nodded reluctantly. But as he was leaving, Ron suddenly spoke. Dad, will you come again? Vance stopped. Hope flickered in his eyes. Yes, son. If you want me to, absolutely. Ron nodded slowly. After Vance left, I hugged Ron. You're very brave, sweetheart. I'm proud of you. Mom, will Dad start coming more often now? Maybe, sweetheart. But that depends on whether he genuinely tries. Ron hugged me tightly. I just want everyone to be happy, Mom. My heart broke. My 5-year-old son wanted everyone happy when he himself hadn't experienced happiness. You're my priority, Ron. Always. And I'll make sure you're happy. I promise. Over the next 2 weeks, court proceedings continued. Evidence mounted. Finally, the judge announced the custody decision. Primary custody will remain with Mr. Frankie Harper. Mr. Vance Harper will have visitation rights, supervised initially for 3 months. We'll review based on Mr. Vance's involvement and Ron's comfort level. I won. Legally. But this victory felt hollow because a family had been shattered. Vance accepted the decision without further fighting. Perhaps he'd realized he didn't deserve full custody. Divorce proceedings also moved forward officially. Settlement discussions began. Vance made generous offers. The house, financial support, everything. I only took what Ron's future required. I didn't want the rest. I wanted to stand on my own feet. 1 month later, when everything was nearly finalized, Randall called again. Hey Frankie, I know this is a difficult time, but I wanted to tell you the decision you made was brave. You should be proud of yourself. Thank you, Randall. That means a lot. The coffee offer still stands. Whenever you're ready. This time I said yes. 6 months later, life had begun settling into place. The divorce was officially complete. I was legally single, and surprisingly, this freedom felt more liberating than frightening. I'd leased a small apartment, Cozy, bright, and most importantly, a fresh start for us. Ron's new school was nearby, and his adjustment there was surprisingly smooth. In a recent session, Dr. Nina had said, "Frankie, Ron's improvement is remarkable. His anxiety has decreased significantly. He's become more open, and he's finally learning to express his emotions properly." A stable environment truly made the difference. Hearing this brought satisfaction greater than any court victory could provide. My interior design firm was also growing steadily. I'd taken on several residential projects, and clients were pleased with my work. Financial independence was emerging, and the feeling was incredible. I could support myself and my son on my own terms. And Randall, he'd gradually become an important part of my life. We'd had multiple coffee dates, dinners, and occasionally he'd accompany Ron to the park. Ron was growing fond of him. "Mom, Uncle Randall is nice," Ron said one day while we built structures with blocks in the living room. "He actually plays with me." That simple sentence carried profound meaning. Actually plays, something his biological father had never done. Randall was respectful about boundaries. He never rushed anything. He understood I was healing and had the patience to wait. One evening, after Ron had fallen asleep, Randall and I sat on the balcony drinking coffee. "Frankie, I want to ask you something," he said hesitantly. "Yes, I know this might be premature, and I don't want to pressure you about anything, but do you think that someday in the future you could give someone else a chance for a relationship?" I held my coffee cup and honestly thought. Initially I believed I never could, that I'd never trust anyone again. But I looked at him. "But you've shown me that good people exist. People who genuinely care without ulterior motives." Randall smiled softly. "I can wait, Frankie. However long it takes." In that moment, I felt that perhaps I could try again. Meanwhile, Vance was taking his scheduled visits regularly. At first, they were awkward, forced conversations, uncomfortable silences, but gradually he began genuinely trying. He started bringing gifts for Ron. Not expensive toys, but thoughtful items. Books Ron enjoyed, art supplies. Once he solved a puzzle with Ron, and I watched from the doorway. For the first time, they'd done something together. Ron was also gradually opening up to Vance. He remained guarded, obviously, but at least he was communicating now. One day after a visit, Vance spoke to me. "Frankie, I know sorry isn't enough, but I'm genuinely trying to build a bond with Ron, to become his real father." "I can see that," I said neutrally. "And about Donnell, I've completely cut ties with her. She's even left the city." "Vance, I don't need this information because I want you back. You should have done this because it was right. For yourself." "I know, and I am doing this for myself. I'm also attending therapy, Frankie. I realized I had issues, attachment problems, commitment issues. I'm addressing them now." Hearing this felt strange. Part of me was glad Vance was finally seeking help, but another part remained indifferent, because all of this came far too late. "I'm glad you're working on yourself, Vance. Truly. But this is for your relationship with Ron. Not for us." "I understand," he smiled sadly. "I lost you. Permanently. And I deserve that. But at least I don't want to lose my son too." "Good. Because Ron needs you, a healthy version of you." Vance nodded and left. Over the following months, life settled into a pleasant routine. Ron was thriving at school. I was succeeding in my career. And Randall was gradually finding his way into my heart. Ron's 6th birthday arrived. This time I decided we'd have a simple party at home, with close family and friends. Both Ron and I were involved in party preparations, hanging decorations, ordering the cake, creating the guest list. These simple moments felt incredibly precious. "Mom, should we invite Dad too?" Ron asked innocently. I looked at him with surprise. "Do you want to?" Ron thought briefly. "Yes. He's better now than before." And that was true. Over the past few months, Vance had genuinely made an effort. "Okay, sweetheart. I'll invite him." The party day was surprisingly beautiful. My parents came, my close friends with their children, and Randall too. And Vance, he arrived on time, carrying a gift, genuinely interacting with Ron. At cake cutting time, Ron closed his eyes before blowing out the candles. "What did you wish for, sweetheart?" I asked. Ron smiled. A genuine, happy smile. "Mom, my wish already came true. I'm happy, and everyone else is happy too." Tears filled my eyes. My son had endured so much, and now he was finally content. After the party, as everyone was leaving, Vance pulled me aside. "Frankie, thank you for inviting me. I know that wasn't an easy decision. This was for Ron. He wanted you here." "I know, and I'm grateful. You're an excellent father, Frankie." "Ron is fortunate." This compliment was unexpected. "Thank you." And Vance hesitated. "I see how Randall looks at you, and how you look at him. He seems like a good person." "He is," I said honestly, "that I'm genuinely happy for you. You deserve happiness. You always did." Acknowledging this must have been difficult for Vance. But he said it, and that mattered. "Vance, I want you to move forward too. Find happiness for yourself, and be a good father to Ron. That's all I ask. I'll try. I promise." After Vance left, Randall approached me. "Everything all right?" "Yes." I smiled. "Everything is finally all right." Randall gently took my hand, respectfully. "Frankie, I know this might seem rushed, but I need to tell you something. I'm developing feelings for you, and I'd like us to give this Wursek a proper chance when you're ready." My heart skipped. For the first time in ages, I felt butterflies. Real ones. "I'll think about it. Seriously, that's all I ask." That night, after Ron fell asleep, I stood on the balcony watching the city lights. So much had changed. 6 months ago, I was trapped in a toxic marriage, emotionally dead, hopeless, and today, I was free, healing, and perhaps ready to move toward love again. My phone buzzed. A text from Randall. "Thank you for today. You and Ron are both amazing. Good night." I smiled while replying, "Good night. See you soon." And in that soon lived infinite possibilities. 1 year later, I stood in our newly renovated house's living room. This home, our home, was designed exactly as I'd always envisioned. Bright, warm, full of life. Ron was in his room playing with the new gaming console Randall had given him for his 7th birthday. His laughter echoed through the house, and that sound brought peace to my heart. Randall was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Yes, we were officially together now, properly, seriously. He'd taken his time, shown patience, and gradually earned my trust. "Frankie, dinner's almost ready," Randall called from the kitchen. "Coming," I called back. The doorbell rang. Vance here for his scheduled visit. I opened the door. "Hey, come in." "Thanks." Vance smiled, genuinely, warmly. He'd also changed over the past year. Therapy had helped him, and he was genuinely becoming a better person and better father. "Ron's upstairs. You can go up. Actually, I wanted to speak with both of you first." He looked toward the kitchen where Randall was. Randall emerged from the kitchen. "Hey, Vance." "Hey, Randall. Look, I wanted to come officially to say." Vance took a deep breath. "Thank you. To both of you. The love and care Ron receives is incredible. Frankie, you're an amazing father. And Randall, you're becoming a real role model for Ron. This was unexpected, and I want you both to know I'm not jealous. Not anymore. I'm grateful Ron has you both. Because I know I alone couldn't give him what he needs." "Vance," I started to say something, but he continued. "I'm moving forward, Frankie. Properly. I've started dating someone, another beta actually, and it feels healthier. Honest. Real. I'm genuinely happy for you, Vance. And regarding Ron, I want us to co-parent properly. As friends. As partners in raising him right." I looked at Randall, who smiled supportively, then at Vance. "That's what I want too." Vance went upstairs to see Ron, and I joined Randall. "Are you okay?" Randall asked. "Yes. I'm actually proud. It took time to reach this point, but we did it. Healthy co-parenting, healed relationships." Randall hugged me. "That's your strength, Frankie. You never chose revenge or bitterness. You chose healing, and that was true. I'd never tried to destroy Vance. I'd simply chosen a better life for Ron and myself. And in the end, everyone was in a better place." At dinner time, we all sat together. Me, Randall, Ron, and Vance. This was an unconventional family. There was complicated history, but it worked, because everyone had finally found their proper place. Ron said, "Mom, thank you." "For what, sweetheart?" "For everything. For keeping me happy." "And Dad," he looked at Vance, "you're coming more now too." "Thank you." Emotion filled Vance's eyes. "Anything for you, champ." Looking at Randall, Ron added, "And thank you for being here. For us." Randall placed his hand on Ron's head. I'll always be here, buddy. In that moment, looking around the table, I realized this was the real happy ending. Not perfect, not a fairy tale, but real, authentic, healthy. I looked at my past, that painful, toxic relationship that had nearly destroyed me. Then at the present, healing, growth, and new beginnings. Life had taught me that sometimes endings are necessary for better beginnings, that self-worth should never be compromised, and that love, real healthy love, is worth waiting for. My phone buzzed. A message from social media. An old photo from when Vance and I were society's perfect couple. I deleted that photo without a second thought, because that past no longer defined me. My present, my future, these people here with me. This was my reality, and this reality, however unconventional, was perfect for me.